I can't stop gushing about
Yeah.
how good Birds of Prey is once I start.
It's a queer film because it is a queer character who's the main character, and the queer character doesn't
Exactly.
have to like go have sex with people
Exactly.
in order to prove that they're queer.
Precisely.
Oh
I'm
wait,
just
are you
like
saying
gotta put it out there. Like
sexism and patriarchy might
I'm
play a
just
role in this?
maybe I don't know, maybe. I mean seriously.
What? Is that a thing? Can we just talk about how fitting it is that we neglected to do like an official intro or outro for the conversation? This is like, what,
Yeah.
3 weeks on since we recorded the initial video? I almost was like, do we not want to do an intro? Because in some ways, the chaos of it means it shouldn't have an intro, that it should just be what it is.
And I'm telling it, so I'll start where I fucking want.
But we really do like cover 4 or 5 different things in this, and I
Yeah.
want people who are fans of those movies to also watch this video. If they're a fan of the other things that we talk about, they're probably also a fan of Birds of Prey, because I think that's a Venn diagram with a lot of
Yeah.
crossover. But
There are fans of The Woman King who may not necessarily be a fan of Charlie's Angels or Birds of Prey.
that's
I
true.
can
That
see
is a
those two
different.
movies not having a lot of crossover.
Also want to make sure that we don't miss out on the people who might want to see that content just because they're thinking, oh, this is just a Birds of Prey video, even though the title will probably be something like
Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of Women in Action. And the Fantabulous Emancipation
there
of
you
Women
go.
in Action. Yes.
We got to get Fantabulous in there because that word is just so
Yeah,
perfect
of
and
course.
Harley. One of the things I will say, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn is a chaotic mess of a structure, and that's exactly how it should be. This video is going to mirror that. We get into a lot of different topics on this conversation because it just kind of goes there.
Yeah.
And I think Harley Quinn would be proud of our structure here. In the same way that the film does, we are leaning into it and bringing you into the way that we have a conversation, because we often go on a tangent. So I've got a little sort of icon of Harley that's going to appear in the corner. So if you see that pop up in the corner, you can expect that we're about to move back to talking about Birds of Prey.
We are focusing on the neurodivergence aspect too, not just by
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, but by showing it. Firstly, I think a lot of people gloss over this how accurate a representation of neurodivergence this movie is.
They say, if you want to tell a story right, you gotta start at the beginning.
Having undiagnosed ADHD, I can relate with the timeline.
Yeah,
Like,
the anti-narrative
hold up, I'm saying this all wrong.
Ah, crap. I told this all wrong.
If I had a penny for the number of times I was saying this, I'd be as rich as Margot Robbie right now. So, I swear, the
Yeah.
representation of neurodivergence is very accurate, and I want to focus on that.
Somebody with ADHD bringing us into the way that she sees the world. It reminds me of Hannah Gadsby's Douglas. I'm going to do this set, but I'm going to do it in a way that you see the world through my lens. My first takeaway from this movie was, this feels like how Harley Quinn would tell her story. She's not apologizing for the way she tells a story. She's just like, this is how I tell a story, and I'm bringing you into it. There was some pushback from fans, maybe critics, about it, and I think in a lot of ways it was because of, like, the structure being kind of messy and sloppy. It's like, but that's the point. The point is that
Also,
she's a
like,
messy, sloppy person.
yeah, exactly. Also, Quentin Tarantino did that for Pulp Fiction and won the Palme d'Or.
Oh
I'm
wait,
just
are you
like
saying
gotta put it out there. Like,
sexism and patriarchy might
I'm
play a
just
role in this?
maybe I don't know, maybe. I mean, seriously.
What? Is that a thing? Yeah, because
So,
like the fact that it's like an
yeah.
all-female creative team also,
Everyone, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, like, okay, because I'm a huge fan of Christina Hodson, I know her name by heart at this point. But
Mhm.
like, Kathy Yan's direction is like so
Yes.
brilliant too. It's not just the screenplay, it's the direction too.
Yeah.
The way she approaches the storytelling, the way that
Hmm.
she frames these characters. You remember the very first party moment where Doja Cat's song is playing in the background? The fast forward, you'll see that happening, but the moment Harley is in screen,
Hmm.
she herself is moving at our speed. The way the director has made sure that she's not just a storyteller, but we are literally
With her.
experiencing it with her, through her, is
Yep.
like very, very commendable. Even the scenes where she isn't present, It's her
Yeah.
voice in the background. Quick history lesson. Like, it's so well done. I can't stop gushing about
Yeah.
how good Birds of Prey is once I start.
And I think again that goes back to what we're talking about is we're seeing it through her lens. So it's like in a world that looks like chaos, she is the one that we're following, and that makes sense in the world. So it's
Yeah.
a different way of looking at what that experience is like. It's literally like we're letting you into what she's seeing, how she approaches situations. Like, talk
Okay,
about all
speaking
the
of,
backstories for all of the characters being tragic. Like, of course
yeah,
they're where they're
I
at
mean,
now.
Canary found out her mom died.
Hmm.
This woman got robbed of a promotion.
Hmm.
Harley was sent to convent school and went through a lot of shit.
Hmm.
But Huntress literally watched her entire family get massacred in front of her. And somehow, and this is what I love about the film, somehow the most together is her.
Yeah.
They call me Huntress.
She calls herself Huntress. Fucking fabulous, if you ask me.
Honestly, I don't think I would have got this perspective if it wasn't such a queer, chaotic, feminine perspective.
Hmm.
In the hyper masculine region or energy, either
Hmm.
trauma gets not acknowledged or else
Hmm.
it becomes your defining factor and you're the most dysfunctional if you're the most traumatized. And here we have like people who can't somehow cope with what happened to them, and this badass woman moving going around killing people who literally watched her family getting butchered. Like,
Yeah.
brilliant writing right there. And the fact that she's the most caring, like the fact that she hands the car to Cassandra Cain, like,
Hmm.
firstly, what I love about all of them is that there are these badass killers who don't have any concerns, who really don't have
Yep.
morals except for Canary and Montoya. They all
Hmm.
of a sudden become incredibly motherly the moment the girl requires protection.
Yes.
I mean, they're all motherly, but their protection comes in the form of action.
Here's what I love, because it's very rare that we have an R-rated action movie where we have a kid in the middle of the battle.
Yeah.
And the first thing that pops in my brain is Kick-Ass. And I think about Chloe Grace Moretz in that.
Yep.
But in that, she is part of it. She is trained. She is in the
Yeah.
violence all of the time. Like, she is like the person that they rely on. She is the one who knows what she's doing. And in this
Yeah.
scenario, it's much more realistic. They are there both fighting and making sure that not only is Cassandra Cain protected and away from things, but she's not even looking at the violence. They don't even want her seeing what is
Yeah.
happening. You don't need to
Yeah.
see this. Is a line that comes up a couple times.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm so glad that this is a movie that has a female creative team is because that's something that they think of, that like men who are
Yeah.
writing this would be like, no, let's get the kid right in there, let's have them have this really epic like fight scene, it'll be really
Yeah.
entertaining if this and this happens. But women are like, no, kids should not have to be a part of the violence that's happening. There is that sort of like
Exactly.
what you're saying, like maternal instinct to protect the kid. And I love that because it adds a layer to that fight scene, because not only do they have to fight the bad guys, they've got to also make sure that Cassandra is safe,
Yeah.
is not like traumatized by everything that she might be witnessing. And this is also like right after they've just decided to ally with each other. Like, they
Yeah.
were all
Exactly.
butting heads and like against each other. And then in this moment, like when Harley's like, we're gonna have to work together, like, and they're all
Yeah.
just like, really?
And I
But
mean,
they
the
did.
fact that Harley Quinn is the one who brings it up after being the one who was literally about to sell the kid. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that Cassandra isn't immediately like a friend
Mm-hmm.
of her. Like, it takes time. You can't just erase what you have done, but
Yes.
this is how progress happens. And I love how they showed that. And also, speaking of the motherly instinct, because
Mm-hmm.
that has been shown by movies created by men as well. But
Yeah, it's true.
what I love about it is that it doesn't change their personalities. They're still the messy, chaotic people.
Yes.
I mean, none of them really give me signs that they would be amazing mothers, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Huntress, but I'm just like, she's way too well doing to have gone through what she did. Maybe that's just repression happening there. But
I think
anyway,
she's
like,
about to have like a breakdown
yeah,
after she's like
exactly, right?
completed her
have a
mission.
feeling
She
that
did the
that's coming.
drive, but
Exactly.
now she's like she has that moment where she's just like, I'm done.
Now what do I do? Exactly.
Like,
Like, can
now
I
what?
leave? And she's like, yeah, can I leave? This doesn't concern me. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. She's the chillest person in the room, and yet she has anger issues. Like, the complexity of these characters, I do
Yeah.
not find that often. And what I was talking about, the maternal instincts, like,
Hmm.
it's more like tapping into their feminine energy instead of just becoming good mothers the moment a kid around them needs protection, which is the
Yeah,
kind of maternal instinct you would find in movies written by men.
that's
I
true.
I refuse to name him, but we do know a certain director who was feeling very feminist for sending a pregnant Kate Winslet into battle.
Who could
So
that possibly
who could that
be?
be, right? We have no idea, but there's someone out there who did that. This is why it's not militant feminism or whatever they want to call it. It's like
Hmm.
literally just representation. It's because you haven't seen a genuine woman on screen that you feel like this is whatever militant or
Because because
matriarchal or
they so rarely allow women to have the reins on an
yeah.
action film like this. And so when it does happen, people don't know how to process it because it's different from what they're used to seeing. And there does tend to be a bit of a polarizing effect with the people who enjoy the movie and the people who don't enjoy the movie. And it's kind of telling.
So, of course, this was gonna come up. It's me. But, like, speaking of action films, Hem by Women, Charlie's Angels, there, if you recall, like Elizabeth Bosley, you don't really see her as the fighter kind of a person, and her maternal instincts are
Hmm.
genuinely different from the way Kristen is maternal towards Naomi Scott's character. Like
Yeah.
you can see it in Kristen Stewart's eyes that her concern and the stuff she says too, that her concern is much more born out of the fact that she's there to protect women.
Yeah.
And Bosley's is more like she has seen these women grow. She has coached them. She's literally been their mother. And there is an actual distinction in
Yeah.
how their maternity manifests.
Hmm.
Christians is generally just words of affirmation.
How'd that feel? Because it looked like it felt really good. That felt nice.
Not just, I'm sorry, words of affirmations are a big deal, not just.
Yeah.
But
No, you're good.
hers manifests in the form of words of affirmations and a hug or two.
Hmm.
Bosley's one also includes acts of service. And
Yeah.
this layer, this difference between how the same maternal instinct can manifest differently is precisely why I was harping on the point that this would not be there in a film written by a man, because the original Charlie's Angels also had three female characters.
Hmm.
None of them were really being protective of each other except for in the physical battle sense. Like they were going to take a bullet for each other, but were they going to do group therapy? I don't think so.
Yeah, there's not the same kind of like instant camaraderie. I really love the dynamic between Kristen and Ella in it because
Yes.
it's both like a comic relief thing that like they just don't quite click, and like Kristen keeps kind of trying to like find connection points.
You sharpen your samurai swords at night? Cosplay Catwoman?
Ella just like is like, I'm doing my job, don't mess with me, like I could actually kill you and I will if you keep annoying me.
A little bit. Oh! That was fun.
And but there's also the aspect of like they are a team and they need to be able to work together. There's also this history just of,
Yeah,
assassins are not supposed to be attached to anybody,
exactly.
friendships are not supposed to be a thing, you're not supposed to trust anybody because anybody could betray you.
You convince me I don't have to do everything by myself.
Well done.
So I like that there's this sisterhood element of Charlie's Angels.
Ella's protection that she provides Naomi is
Hmm.
almost entirely through action.
Yeah.
In fact, no one else does it as much as her. Like pulling her away from the action, like watch out, you're gonna literally die if you don't move right now. That is much
Yeah.
more Ella. And Kristen is like, are you okay? Are you fine?
Hmm.
And then there's Elizabeth who's like, okay, you need to wear this, you need to go there.
Yeah.
Like you can see
Yeah.
the different ways that mothering is happening there. And
Mhm.
yeah, I don't see that kind of nuance anywhere else. Because what people naturally didn't want to give over control to them is because they assume that it would just become about, again, like this is such a misogynistic perspective. I don't even want to pronounce it, but like yeah, they were sort of assuming things were gonna go soft. It would just go down to talk, no action. But like the
Mm.
choreography, I mean, oh my god, the choreography in both these films, especially Journey Smollett kicking in those leather pants. Like,
What I love is in the sort of like epilogue sequence at the end, they're all
oh,
like
yep.
beefing each other up about like how good they were in battle. It's just like, let's talk about Canary kicking
How
in
high
those
you were kicking. I was
those
like,
tight
yes,
pants. Like, how'd you do
exactly.
that? And it's just like, oh, thanks. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Oh, and then when you did that one thing, like,
Yeah,
it reminds
exactly.
me of the very end of the trailer for Polite Society, where she's just like, did you see
Right.
me hit that guy? Like, I think I drew
Yeah.
blood. Like, I'm pretty sure you did. Like, that kind of, again, it's that like that camaraderie and like
Yeah.
cheering each other on and giving each other compliments and not just being like, I'm the best and I have to, it's like a competition the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The moment they're just women who are comfortable with each other,
Mm-hmm.
even despite having so much trauma to process, they're literally just like hyping each other up. And then she's like,
Yeah.
does she always talk like she's in a bad 80s movie?
Yes.
Is that just
Fuck
me?
you and fuck you.
I know. It's great.
Even the comedy is not just jokes, it's literal observation. In the real world, how many jokes do you crack a day? But how much do you laugh a day?
Yeah.
There's a lot more comedy
I
that comes
mean,
from observation in real life, and I love that here it's
yeah.
reflected.
I think too, I'm thinking about in that scene, that's also the scene where Cassandra gives Huntress back the car and it's like, thanks for this. Sometimes whenever you have a significant moment like that, like it's over explained, like there's like a line that goes with it to be like, my brother had this and so here's the car. So I like it that both in the heat of the battle and when she gives it back, there's no extra dialogue about the significance
Yeah.
of what that car meant and why it's supposed to keep her safe and all that kind of stuff. It's just this moment, and it means that the director, the writer, everybody is trusting that you're paying attention so that you
Yeah.
catch that moment earlier in the backstory when you're seeing all of that, so
Yeah.
that it can just be this visual on screen that lets you know that there is this deeper layer to the protection that's going on, that like she's giving her something that gives her protection, that like she's
Yes.
kind of giving that away to somebody else and realizing like this is another kid who's about to witness something violent and I don't want her to have the same trauma that I had. You know, just
Yeah.
another sort of example of like generational trauma. Like this is
Exactly, right?
another example. Like
Yeah,
she's seeing herself
precisely.
watch all the violence before her
Yes.
and doesn't want
Yeah.
to have another kid deal with that.
Yeah. Huntress went through terrible childhood trauma. That
Mhm.
kind of shuts their brain off. And I love the fact that through Harley's eyes, we see that contrast because Harley is a
Mhm.
psychiatrist and men won't acknowledge that. But guess what? Kathy Ann and Christina Hodson will. People forget that because of the representation in that horrible Suicide Squad movie. Like,
Oh gosh.
I still get a yucky feeling just from recalling the way the camera panned up from her feet. Like, ah, my God, can you be more male
I do.
gazy?
I know this was meant to be about Birds of Prey, but if we
Yeah,
just want to talk about like female representation in action movies, I think that we've got a lot of things that we could cover if we want to talk about like
yeah,
Woman King, if we want to talk more about Charlie's Angels, if we want to talk about what I was going to bring up, which is when Suicide Squad came out, and it is Suicide Squad, right? That's the bad one, and The Suicide Squad is the James Gunn one. That's
that
correct,
is
right?
amazing. Yeah,
You know how bad a movie is when they're like, you know what? Let's do try number 2, and like just a few
yeah,
years after it, do a different one. I remember when Wonder Woman came out, everybody was talking about the way that Harley Quinn's costume in Suicide Squad contrasted from the like armor that Wonder Woman is wearing, and the way that it's not about sexualizing the character. It's about like, this is armor, it's supposed to protect her in battle and all of that kind of stuff. That again is a film that is helmed by a woman about what a woman is going through. When you have creatives on the team who are female who are trying to tell a story about empowering women,
yeah,
there's certain decisions that go into that are made that are different from when you have men at the helm.
yeah,
And
exactly.
the lens of the camera being a male gaze versus a female gaze really changes how you
Yeah,
see the story, because I think that's a big part of Birds of Prey. It's a big part of both like the criticism that it got and a big part of why the people who liked it. So
so if
it
you're gonna do a common thing, let me get to my favorite film of this year then. The one that I cannot seemingly stop talking about.
I wonder what it could be. I actually thought this is what we were going to talk about when you brought up
So,
Charlie's Angels. As happy as I
yeah.
was about Charlie's Angels, I was like, oh, okay, well, fine, go for it.
So, you will not find better representation for African female warriors than the Woman King. Firstly, how cool is it that Dora Milaje was based on something instead of being an original thought? Like, I'm so glad this was Gina Prince Bythewood and not just not a
Yep.
man specifically, but also not any other woman. Like, I just feel like Gina did the best job that this film could have gotten, because okay, a lot of because of Love and Basketball, who doesn't love that movie, but also because like the way she has approached the diaspora here, like it's
Hmm.
rare. All the men are either incompetent or antagonistic. It's
Yeah.
not about being matriarchal. I don't know why that word is so like bugs me a lot actually, but it's not about
Yeah.
that. It's more about realizing that, well, they did not have a positive contribution. What am I supposed to do?
Hmm.
Still acknowledge them? Like, this is
Yeah.
just being realistic.
Hmm.
It's the same with Birds of Prey. Every single male character is either incompetent or antagonistic.
Yep.
I know a lot of people are
Even the
gonna
one
be
who
like,
seems so nice.
right, he sold her. He sold her out for a restaurant.
It's
No,
not even like he's like, I'm so sorry, they made me. He's like, it's just business.
yeah.
That was a big deal. I was like,
Lotus
I was
flower,
so surprised
really,
by that.
really? No, no, no. You can't just be like lotus flower and then, no, I'm sorry. That just doesn't cut it
I
for me.
know.
So,
I know.
like, again, what I like to reiterate here is, if you were Harley Quinn, is there a way you could really see men as like a good role in your life? Would you really be able to look at them as a positive influence after every one of them has betrayed you? In the same year that he made the most big budget white savior trope film, we have this white savior being like dropped off, like, yeah, no, sorry, we can do better, we don't need you here. Like, I mean, and I love the fact that it wasn't offensive. Like, Tuso doesn't really like disrespect them. She's like,
Hmm.
this is my home, this is where I belong, and you don't have a role here, so we are gonna have to separate.
Yeah.
It's not about being like, boo hoo, you suck, go home. I love that it's more mature than that,
Hmm.
because that's the perspective that was necessary there. Now, if it was Birds of Prey, having a mature perspective would make no sense, because have you seen the inside of Harley's mind?
Oh, yes, we have. We the
Yes,
whole
we
first
have.
sequence. That is the inside of
Exactly.
Harley's brain.
Oh my god, that's like the darkest
But I
thing,
also
right?
like, since we're talking
Yeah,
about
the
the
woman
like
can.
maternal instinct, think about the difference between the way that Viola Davis's character and
And
Lashana Lynch's character kind of like
I know.
take people under their wing,
No.
and again, it's similar to what you're talking about with like Charlie's Angels. Like Ella's way to protect and be maternal is to use action and protect in that way. And I think it's also important while we're talking about all this that like all of the different ways that people are maternal protecting are valid. Just because they're not all the same doesn't mean one person is better than the other or one person's
Exactly.
method
Exactly.
works better.
Exactly.
In fact, it's about how, as a team, all their different qualities and assets,
Exactly.
nobody's shamed for not being one way and not being this way. Like it all works together to kind of
Exactly.
save the
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty
day.
sure this doesn't need to be said at this point, but you're not a worse mother if you don't go into war pregnant. Trust me, you're not. He who must not be named will try to tell you you are, but you aren't.
You want to talk about men who are good at having female characters in a story and representation, like Ryan Johnson's up there. I also, if we're going to talk about that, I think Paul Feig is one of the best like feminist writer directors right now. He like has both his own appreciation for the camaraderie of female characters and like the sisterhood that's there, but
Yeah.
also is not one to shy away from having women come in and co-write with him and like
Yeah.
collaborate with him to tell a more rounded, authentic story. And I
Yeah.
think we need more people like that. Spy is also women in action. And what I love about that movie is that Susan Cooper is our main
Yes.
character and Melissa
Yes.
McCarthy plays it perfectly. And it is everything that she brings to the table that are the reasons that she can succeed. She doesn't have to become something she's not in
This.
order to save the day. It's
This.
tapping into what she specifically knows how to do and is trained to do that allows everything to work out. And that is such an important message in
Yeah.
this day and age where spy movies seem like these unattainable, like only the like thin, rich, like bombshell type people can play
Yeah.
these characters. And to see a film where our main protagonist looks much more like what normal people look like, has the awkwardness, has the social anxieties, has all these things going on, and still is
Yeah.
a very good spy.
She's a secret agent who is
Yeah.
unsuspecting. How?
Yeah. I mean,
That.
and that's That's a line that comes in at the very beginning of Charlie's Angels when Kristen Stewart is flirting with Australian Johnny. And she's saying, in my line of work, being a woman is an asset because if you're beautiful, no one expects anything of you. And if you're not beautiful, you're pretty much invisible and you can get away with anything. Like, that was such a great like one-liner that tells you so much about like what the like Charlie's Angels franchise has been, but also like how this film is going to be like tapping into something that maybe they haven't explored as much, which is let's do this from the female lens, and how do we tell that kind of story, and how does that differ from the way the other ones have been.
Our favorite detail about Birds of Prey, hair tie.
Hair tie? Yeah.
These are the details that I do not often see.
Yeah, when she's like, when did she have time to do it? She like that too. That is a moment that also allows for this almost like fourth wall meta break, which I always appreciate. Anytime that's able to like function in a film, if you can get that kind of moment. And it, because it also fits again the tone of the film, which is that it's being narrated, that it's a very formal film in that we know that we're watching a movie, we know that a story is being told to us. You're not like fully just like, okay, I'm part of this world and everything, because it's being cut, because it's being moved around, because it's a chaotic thing. So the fact that she calls it out is, I think, actually to let the audience know that there's something here that doesn't quite fit. Because if you're so caught up in the action scene, you might not actually realize that she wasn't wearing rollerblades before.
Yeah.
And so you might just whatever. So it's a very brave move to like call out what could be a plot hole.
Yeah.
But then it's like, it's because it's intentional. It's because this is supposed to be chaotic and a little bit like unreliable narrator, you know, maybe this doesn't all fit together, because that's what the film is meant to be.
But also I feel like Harley Quinn is the person who would be able to fit in a shoe change.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It also is plausible because Harley is
exactly.
Yeah.
And also what I love about it is like it is calling out. I give you that. But also the fact that it directly presents to the audience how the mind of woman often works. Like, not everyone's, I'll give you that. Of course, you can generalize like that, but the feminine perspective, that these are details that you do notice, which is very weird that Suicide Squad Harley Quinn, a trained psychotherapist, okay, somehow doesn't notice anything at all. But here she's making observations. She makes these very astute observations about the characters at moments, and like, holy shit, there's a psychiatrist. And I love the fact that she's like arrogant about that. Call me dumb, but I've got a PhD. Yes, that's the energy that I want from them. Because a man, when he writes Harley Quinn, her reaction to that is like, oh yeah, you want to call me dumb? Like, swings the bat and that's it. Here she does both, because of course she's gonna break the guy's leg. Come on, it's Harley Quinn. But she takes offense at the fact that she's being called dumb too. Like,
Call me dumb. I have a PhD, motherfucker.
she fell into a vat, but she didn't lose her mind. Like, she went clinically mad in some senses, but her brain functions. And I love the fact that the film is finally like, you know what? Behind all the wreckage, there's a functional brain there. There's an intelligent person who thinks, who makes decisions. Like, because the film starts off like that, remember? And I'm telling the story, so I'll start where I want. Like, that's the moment she tells us, like, you know what? This is not just about me being a fighter. It's about me telling you guys that I actually have a brain, and I want you guys to acknowledge that.
And I think too, you know, talking about making decisions, they're not always selfless decisions. She is an anti-hero. After you've seen her bond with the kid, she takes this ultimate betrayal from the guy who runs the restaurant, and she says, "You're right." And then Cassandra's like, "Harley?" And she's like, "He's right. It's just business." And she like reorients her brain and is like, I forgot what path I was on, and I need to get back on that path because I need to save myself. She gets into like survival mode, and then like, you know, does this thing that she like like when she's like, did she tape you to a toilet? Like, she's like, what is this person doing?
Exactly.
Like, she reverts back into the Harley that would do whatever the Joker said, that like wanted to, you know, have this security and this safety and only thought of herself. And then we get to see her, like, how that, you know, turns out bad for her. She literally gets paralyzed and can't do anything, and in that paralyzation is like realizing like how bad she feels about what she chose to do, and then has to, you know, both work her way out of the situation and make up with the kid that she basically sent to
Yeah.
get gutted.
I'm gonna bring up the perspective finally. I mean, the reason I wore the shirt also, like, it's queer joy all around. Harley is queer as hell here. Have you seen her costumes? Like, could you dress
You've seen
more
the
queerly?
bisexual tones in
Right?
everything.
Her hair. I mean, firstly, that was the writer from DC Comics originally. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? I am no longer gonna do nuance. She's gonna wear blue and pink. Just read it,
Yep.
people. So
Yep.
right from there, but also the fringes in her in her dress. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she could not be queer.
Even in the backstory, when she's like, I got my heart broken a bunch of times, you
There's a
see her
woman.
with a
There's a woman.
woman.
Yep, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Again, this is what I love about the film. You can actually miss out on the fact that her
Mm-hmm.
bisexuality wasn't just insinuated but literally confirmed. But she
Yeah.
trusts her audiences instead of like literally having her kiss a man and a woman to confirm that she is bi. Like,
It's just part of her. It doesn't have to be something that she,
exactly.
you know, exercises in the film. It's just who she is. It's a
And
queer film because it is a queer character who's the main character, and the queer character doesn't
exactly.
have to like go have sex with
Exactly.
people in order to prove that they're queer.
Precisely. You barely see a queer film where queerness is a factor when the character is not a relationship.
Yes.
And that is precisely why I love this thing because Harley is still, she is always queer because she is queer.
Yeah,
She's
it
not
doesn't
gonna be
go away.
queer when she's in a relationship or when she's having sex with someone.
Yep.
She is queer because she is queer, and
Yep.
it's it's everywhere.
We do have to talk about the fact that this film is a love story. It is a love story between a woman and an egg sandwich.
Oh my
And the
God.
revenge plot that she goes on to defend
Yes.
the sandwich that was taken from
And
her.
she gets
And
him
in the
back at the
end,
end.
they
She
are
gets him back.
reunited. She literally
Yeah.
confronts the woman who killed her sandwich
Yeah.
and like wants to like take revenge on her, and then in the end also gets the sandwich back. It is a love story between Harley and this sandwich.
But there's growth in her character because
There is
at the
growth
end
in
of
her
the day,
character so
she
that she
doesn't
earns the
actually
love
take
of the sandwich.
revenge. She realizes that the woman who made her lose the sandwich is not at fault. They don't actually go for the revenge, but at the end she gets him back to, and it's just like the perfect
Yes.
love story out there.
Yeah, it is.
And
It's the perfect love story. And
the
I
way she
also, because I
says it,
still
it took
remember
me losing something really important to me to
exactly
realize how big the
in
target of
the
Tony Stark is.
trailer, they have that line where she's like, it took me losing something really important.
Yeah,
And it shows that scene of her being like, "Ah," you know, and you think that it's like some person in the
yeah,
story.
yeah.
And
It's
so
the
when
egg
you see the
sandwich.
movie the first time and you see that moment and you hear that line, you're
Yeah.
just like, the
Okay.
chaos of
Right.
this character and this movie, the fact that this is like the big ultimate like catalyst that propels her into the rest of it is so
Yeah.
amazing. Like, it again tells you everything you need to know about like the humor and the tone of this
Yeah.
story.
Exactly. And like the story is so queer, colorful, bright,
Mm-hmm.
cheery. It makes
Very
so much
much.
perfect sense for the villain to not be a very
Mm,
brooding person, but rather be this literally caricaturish guy.
yeah.
Do you know why you're here?
When it comes to me and Roman Sionis, there are a lot of possible answers to this question.
Yeah.
That is the most overacted character in the history of overacting, and that is, and that somehow is very appropriate for the
It's
character
perfect.
created. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's not a party without a little drama, am I right? Come on, turn it up. Shots on the house.
It's
And I
perfect.
remember
And
coming
I
back from the theaters initially watching it like, I don't like this movie. Somehow they managed to make McGregor give a bad performance. Okay, that's how I
mm,
saw it. But then I realized like it's because I was looking at it as a contrast to all the male directed films out there.
yep.
And here we have this like woman being like, you know what? Harley Quinn, the world is cheerful. This villain is weird. We're just gonna make
Yep.
him as caricaturish and overdone as possible. These are my
Yep.
things. The diamond is my things. The way he throws the cushion, like that is precisely how you need it
Yep.
out. Because honestly, if you take a step back from Batman's darkness, Some of the villains are pretty ridiculous. They're literally
They really are.
ridiculous.
Yes.
And I love the fact
Absolutely.
that she's like, you know what, they are ridiculous. I'm going to show them as ridiculous.
It
And I
is.
don't care if the men don't get it. Also, what I love about Birds of Prey is the way it explores gendered power dynamics because,
Yeah.
like, I mean, we can just like say it out loud. I don't care if people are not gonna agree. Black Mask and Zaz are gay. Like they're just gay. Okay, it's canon at this point. Have you seen them? They're
I mean,
clearly
especially Zaz for
for sure.
Roman, 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the way he touches Harley when she's paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the contrast there? It's inappropriate, definitely. It's
Yes.
unwanted for sure, but it's not
Yes.
sexual. It's more
No.
about, it's more
It's dominant.
dominant. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I would not get this perspective from a male writer.
No.
I mean, not on an average. Maybe some, but not
Yeah.
generally speaking. And this is a very important nuance to put out there because, like, yeah, it's not always about the sexual power dynamics. There's other power dynamics as well,
Yep.
and I love the contrast is established through this because there's another scene where Black Mask literally does sexually harass the woman. He
Oh my
has the
gosh, that is
guy
like one of the
cut
most
up her
uncomfortable scenes
dress.
to watch.
Yeah, again, not a single moment of nudity on screen, not a
No.
single moment of like, there are just a few second glimpses,
Mm-hmm.
and I love
Mm-hmm.
that the contrast is there because inappropriate touches are a lot of different kinds.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
again, this nuance is what I love.
Something that I noticed this time around when I was watching it was the scene where Canary uses her vocal
Yeah,
power
yeah,
to clear the way for
yeah,
Harley to go
yeah,
after Cassandra. This is literally a woman using the power of her own voice
yes,
to
to
like
help
not
another.
only eradicate the threat that's before them but also help her friend be able to save the day. Like that's
Yes,
the metaphor and the
exactly,
imagery that's
exactly,
in that moment just like
absolutely.
blew me away this time around. I was
Literal,
like,
wow, I
wow.
love this perspective, MJ. I never thought of that. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
literally using her voice. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
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 she's using her
also
voice that she has like suppressed, that like she hasn't been
exactly,
able to use.
exactly. Also, like the
Yeah.
fact that she faints after that, because again,
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that the film, instead of talking about trauma, it just puts it in there. Because
Yeah.
honestly, how many times are you like comfortable enough in a patriarchal society to literally like go up there and like I have this trauma? You can't. So the fact that she collapses because she had
Yeah.
repressed that power, because she knew using that is got what got her mother killed, so she promised
Mm-hmm.
herself she would never use it. So
Yep.
like, just amazing. I can't get enough of the film. There's a reason I've
Yeah.
watched it about 15, 20 times now. I
Only.
I mean, yeah, okay, fine. That's not much, but we're getting there. Women supporting women, like it's just the perfect genre out there. Like, that is
Yep.
precisely why I love the movie so much. It gives these characters much more than just eye candy and male fantasies of punching each other.
That's
And
a
the
good sort of outro clip.
yeah,
That's why
yeah,
I love this
actually.
movie.
Yeah, I think this is a good outro. Yeah, like this is why I love the movie because it gives them the space to be what other male-dominated spaces have never given them.
Mm-hmm. Who could
So,
that possibly
who could that
be?
be, right? We have no idea, but there's someone out there who did that.
I just want to see
And
us like just do a flash of his face on the screen during this. I'm thinking about the multimedia aspects that we're gonna add, and I'm
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
about
exactly.
just little,
Just
just
like
little subliminal messaging like this one.
a
This
jump
one here.
scare. Yeah, you know what? We'll have it in the description. Warning, jump scare.
Warning, strobe effect.
But yeah, would we really have the patience to like sit down and introduce the audience? It's more like, I love this, I have to talk about it. So of course you're gonna dive at first. So I'm still not gonna name him, but in the same time that we got
Who
the
must
biggest,
not be named.
he who must not be named.
Can we just
exactly.
put it that way?
He's our Voldemort. Exactly. So
You can tell by the length of my hair how long it's been because of how fast my
Same.
hair grows.
same.
The chaos that is queer hair.
Like she's shown on screen less than James Cameron was shown on this screen.
I'm sorry. Who?
Yeah, you cut
Who
this
must
off.
not be
You
named?
cut this off. You cut this off. But like, yeah, like you know what? I'm doing a fourth wall break meta joke with you here right now. But anyway.